Hi guys, this is Mark Pillar. Today we are talking about Backendless Data Service, one of the most commonly used services from the family of the Backendless APIs. No wonder every single application that is out there would rely on the Backendless database to persist its data. Backendless Data Service is special in a way because we try to put all the things that are true, typical to Backendless from the ease of use perspective and the perspective of making it super simple to build applications. Backendless Data Service is one that truly manifests those qualities. Whenever you build applications with Backendless, whether you are a developer or an administrator of an application, our goal is to simplify the process of building apps, managing and monitoring and administering your data. With Backendless Data Service, it is true all the way. Whenever you start managing your backend through the visual tool that we provide, which is the Backendless console, or developing an application using an API, our goal is to make it super simple and as easy as possible to establish the data flow from the client application to the backend and vice versa. So if you are an admin, the Backendless console does not require you to know anything from the database theory or SQL, how to structure your data and so on. The tool is out there in a highly visual manner that gives you an idea of how your data is structured and some very easy concepts, like for instance everything is organized in tables and you can easily see your data in a grid layout in a metaphor that is familiar to you. You don't need to structure and see the data in some complex JSON trees. Everything is nicely organized. You can page through the data, you can search the data, you can modify the data right there in the cloud using Backendless console. If you need to establish indexes just to speed up data loading and so on, you can do it once again in a very visual manner. If you want to establish security policies, once again you go there and you specify how individual security roles can work with your data from the perspective of creating new records, modifying them, deleting and so on in a highly visual manner. You don't need to know any programming language to create your security policies. If you are a developer, it is as simple as possible. All the APIs which we provide are highly object-oriented. You do not need to do any kind of data massaging. You just take your Android object or Swift or Objective-C object, use the Backendless API, and data will automatically end up in the Backendless database. Let me show you a super simple example of how the data would actually end up in the database and all the things that would occur whenever you do that. Let's consider that there is an object in your mobile application that represents a person, and that object would be identified with properties such as name and age. So here are some specific values for name and age. Let's call it person. And such object could reside in your Android, iOS, JavaScript, really any kind of application that can consume Backendless APIs. And let's say in order to save this object in the Backendless database, you would be using our API to communicate with the Backendless server. And when this request is received by Backendless, it will check if there is a special storage place, let's call it a table, exists to accommodate objects of this kind. If there is not one, it will be created on the fly, and let's call it table person. So table person is going to be created with all the columns that match the properties of this object, and then an object will be stored right here. Okay, everything's good. At this point, once the object is stored, you can use Backendless API to retrieve that object back, and it will arrive back into the client application. And even though if this one is Android, you can actually load this object from iOS, from JavaScript, and it will arrive in a completely native format to your client application. So you could be storing it as a JSON object from your JavaScript application. But once you retrieve that person, let's say in Android, and you do have an Android class that represents person, it will arrive as an instance of that person class. But let's not focus on these details. We'll be getting down into the actual technical things and how things work later on. Let's expand that scenario and say that there is another property called car. And that car points to yet another object that we're going to draw right here that is identified with properties such as make and model. And this is a car object that this person drives. Car. So now, instead of sending just one person to the backend, we can take this structure that consists of person and the car, and using exactly the same API, send it to Backendless. Now, Backendless already has table called person, but it doesn't have table to accommodate objects of type car. So one will be created once again on the fly. With columns make and model, just like right here, and that car object will be stored in there. So this person will be the second person that we store with the actual pointer to the car. So all of these things in terms of putting those objects in the corresponding tables happen completely automatically. You do not need to write any SQL, you don't need to know anything about how to structure your data. It will be completely automatic and things will just work. So you make this API call, you open up Backendless console, and you can see all the tables created, all the columns in those tables and the objects linked together. It really is beautiful and as simple as this. So this is a very simple scenario, but hopefully it demonstrates for you how things actually work in Backendless at a very high level. As we go through this series of videos, I'll be drilling down into the actual technical side of things and show you specific APIs and how to work with the data entities, how to load related entities, how to establish validators, and which make sure that the data that is being saved or updated conforms to specific requirements, how to add business logic. All those things are coming down the line in this video, but in this video series. But for now, the important thing is I want you to have an understanding of what Backendless Data Service does at a fairly high level. So hopefully you found this informative. Stay tuned for more videos.